Is serial entrepreneurship a blessing or a curse? I am with the man, Chad Silverstein. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So we're going to make sure everybody can hear us and you talk loud too. All right.
Okay.
So Chad, you are the definition of a serial entrepreneur and your brain is always going. That's why you and I get along well. But when did you realize you were an entrepreneur?
So I was blessed to be able to start a company when I was in college, and I didn't necessarily know I was an entrepreneur. I just kind of fell into it through my first job. Right while I was going to Ohio State, I got a job. I was a salesperson, and I really quickly was able to find some success early on, and it just kind of launched from there. I just kind of fell into it, and I had a few people in my life that were, they believed in me, and they gave me an opportunity, and I just took advantage of it.
That's awesome. And it started out with changing the perception of bill collection. Did I get that exactly right?
So a little bit, but it didn't start off that way just because that was the result of me working really hard and trying to get clear on a vision for my business. And early on in my career, when I started my business, I was into leadership and I was into all the personal and professional development, but I didn't necessarily have the tools or resources or the people to help guide me down that path to set up a big dream. And then once I was able to find that, it was change the perception of collections because everybody hates collection agencies.
There's a stereotype.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, it's like what? That they don't care about people. They're just about money, all those things.
It's funny. I think what's so crazy is I feel sometimes we feel like we live in an upside down world, right? Because most of the collection agencies that I know are doing everything they can so they don't get sued. They're nice to people. And yet, you have a couple bad seeds out there that, a phone call or a certain issue with a delinquent account gets put on the news, and everybody thinks they're all these terrible, mafia-looking baseball bat coming after you, suing you, type of individuals, and they're not. And I think, for me, we were representing hospitals and doctors, and they wanted people to be handled with kid gloves. And but I had a double-edged sword because I had all my employees who they didn't want to work at a collection agency. So I had a problem on the front end with recruiting and building a team, but then also having to explain to clients that we're different.
Yeah, because an employee would basically not get good vibes calling somebody up and saying, hey, I know you just had surgery. I know you're sick, but you got to pay your bill.
Yeah. So early on, I made a decision. And I think this is where, again, I didn't even know what I was doing, but it was just more of common sense. And what I learned over time, it wasn't that common practice. I just did everything the opposite. I did everything the opposite from every other collection agency, and it started to work unbelievably.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe the first takeaway, because I know we have people watching all over, and even my son is 18, but you would say to be an entrepreneur, you got to differentiate yourself.
For sure. I mean, to be an outlier and to, be distinct and have something that separates you from everyone. And all you have to do is look at your industry and see what everyone does and what can be done better. And that was one of the things that over time I realized that was one of my skills was I was good at thinking differently and saying, well, I wouldn't do it that way. So why are we doing it that way? And I question it, and then I would just change it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember in fact, I just sent you the picture. I think I said it's almost 10 years ago,
Crazy.
But I brought my group of clients from the Igniting Souls to you because they had been hearing about Opus and developing a core, but they had never seen it. And all of a sudden they walk into your whole amazing place. Tell us what they saw.
Yeah, so when I started with Built to Lead in 2010, being coached by someone who cares enough to hit you with the truth and challenge you.
Chet Scott.
And I was challenged, and I'm coachable. So for me, I was like, bring it, make me better. And I just had this really deep desire to just be different and do some great things. And I had this platform, my company, that I was working at every day, and I was in control, so I could do it. And I remember he introduced me to someone you're going to see today, my friend Brett Kaufman.
Yes.
And Brett has this big opus, this big dream in life. And I remember walking into Brett's building, and I was walking into his vision, and he's a developer, and it was so incredible. And so I tried to turn my collection agency into, basically my dream. And it was not a collection agency. It was a place where people can grow. It was a place where people can put their own visions on the wall and pursue. And if that meant leaving, And I get it. That's the gig. If I get them for a year or two, then I'm going to get the best of them for a year or two. And I took my conference room and I turned it into a think tank. And I took all of my personal and professional development, writing, goals, vision, challenges, and I would just throw it up on the wall. And I remember someone said it looks like the inside of my brain, but you literally walked into my creativity, and I just created as like a living, breathing, organic space. And you brought everybody in, and I remember sharing my vision and sharing why I was doing it. And it's the whole Simon Sinek, start with why. And again, I never felt like I was running a collection agency. I didn't care what we did. We could have been a garbage company. We built an amazing team, and we did it from the ground up. And some of these entry-level folks ended up being on the executive leadership team 25 years later. And it was just, to be part of that was just unbelievable. It was such a cool experience. And I'm blessed to be able to look back at that and to see how it unfolded over time, because it doesn't happen overnight.
You're one of these people who is constantly innovating. So when you started this choice recovery,
Mm-hmm.
How did it look different when you started it versus when you made the exit? What did you do differently?
So Chad made fun of me because my mentor, who was an amazing person, he had a company in Cleveland. He let me start the company in Columbus.
Interesting.
And for 15 years, we were partners until I bought him out. And if you walked into my office early on, you'd see me wearing a suit. And you'd see me, really kind of modeling the way of what I learned from him, because I didn't know any different. I didn't go to school for business. I was good at knowing how to get the best out of people and how to influence and inspire by showing people how to get it done.
Okay.
And so I modeled the way. And towards the end of my relationship with my first partner, I was getting really strong and clear on who I am and what I want. And it was a little bit of a different direction than him, and not bad, but different. And that was kind of the edge that said, maybe it's time for us to kind of separate and go our own ways. And it was an amazing, successful 15-year run. And, we did it on a handshake deal. I mean, we didn't even have to use our buy sell. It was incredible. But I changed. I was doing the hard work, and I was trying to become built to lead and trying to get others to bubble up and ignite other people, because I knew I wasn't going to get everybody to do it. We had a leadership program that had at the most maybe up to 100 people, and only 20 people showed up to it. So you
had we got to break this down. You had a leadership program that wasn't cheap.
No.
And and the whole concept is that sports, I heard you share this with Tom Ryan the other day. Sports teams practice, but businesses often don't practice.
Not often. They don't.
And so that's what Built to Lead is. It's for your team to practice.
So when Chet came in to build and work with me, he was charging me thousands of dollars. And now looking back, it was one of the best investments I ever made. And about 6 months in, because he'd only work with me, he wouldn't work with my team. And my team was chomping at the bit. They saw what I was doing, and they wanted a piece of it. And I was excited to give them that gift. And all of a sudden, that fee doubled. And then Chet came in, and he was working with me and my leadership team. And then all of a sudden, it started to catch fire on the entire company. And I was like, I want to give this to everybody. So then that price tripled.
No.
And I brought him in. And I remember my old partner called me up. He asked me, he said, what's the shelf life on this Built to Lead thing? And I remember thinking, and I said, clear out. If we aren't breaking records, if we're not experiencing that traction that we were investing in, then we'll get rid of it. But if we're breaking records and we're doing better than we ever have, and people are lit up, why would we ever have a shelf life on this? And that was sort of a little bit of a catalyst to us kind of separating, because, some people, personal development, call it what you want, coaching, therapy. Some people just, they have an avoidance to it. And it is hard to look at yourself and get called out and, deal with things that you've suppressed for a long time. And, for me, a leader can have some vulnerability and transparency, and it's a hard thing to do. It's if it's not in your nature, that's a hard quality to have as a leader.
I love this. So Chet doesn't pull any punches. He says, look, you're going to put more people in the room. I'm going to do more work. I'm going to charge you more.
Yeah.
What's some of the stuff that happened in the room? Because I remember, actually, this is, you might remember this far back. I was starting to leave the pastorate, and I'm thinking I might want to do what Chet does. So I observed it, and I was like, I've never seen anything like this. What would happen in those rooms?
So, we would take time to what we called practice. And practice was us getting together and letting people have the freedom to work on themselves, where most people will say, I don't have time to do that, whether it's going to be reading or writing. And it is a hard thing, but we literally paid people in a way to come in and work on themselves. And it got to the point where we did everything that you would not do typically in a company.
And I got to interrupt and say something. It's like you would be in the room, their boss, and they might be doing deep work and they might be saying, I shouldn't be here anymore. Yeah. And you're like, what? How could you see the wisdom of doing that? Because the joke is it's built to leave, not built to lead.
Right. So when I sold Just Recovery, I changed the name to Built to Leave, because my entire career I watched people launch and leave. And so then when I decided on my 25th anniversary, I changed it with the state as Built to Leave, because I'm like, now it's my turn. And I had a really hard exit, which is another conversation, but those practices were all designed to build trust.
Trust.
And if you don't have trust, people aren't going to, come in there and do that. But where we really had an advantage was I had an abundance of trust with a few that were building with me for quite some time. So when new people came in, we were always going backwards in order to go forwards, because we had new people come into practice 200, 250, 300. And like, we're going back to the beginning. And that's what you do as a leader. I always think if an entrepreneur does not focus on purpose and really has profit as the aim, which, look, as an entrepreneur, you got to make a profit. I get it. But if that is your primary aim, you're not going to keep people happy and you're going to lose people. And, the question to somebody who doesn't focus on building their culture is that if you have turnover and you have a lot of turnover, you can never build trust, because you always have new people starting and you're always starting over. You're always having to rebuild.
It's never the same team.
It's never the same team. So you have to build a place that people want to stay at, so you can sustain a level that you're building. And you have to really care. That's another thing, is that as a leader,
it's built around love.
You're serving others. We used to take my accountability chart and I'd flip it upside down and I was at the bottom. Because I'm not going to expect people to serve me. Like, I'm there to serve them. And wow. I think that was an easy thing for me to have as a mindset, because it's just how I always believed it. But I didn't realize until I really started to expand my network with entrepreneurs that most people don't think that way. And, if you are the be all end all and you think because of your rank in a company makes you a leader or an entrepreneur, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Like, you may be an authority figure, but you're not the leader.
So the listeners who are watching, they probably work in a company where they're scared to tell their colleague the truth. Right. Maybe their colleague's dropping the ball or being annoying or not following up. And in Built to Lead, Chet draws it out of you, and you might be staring at the person, and instead of gossiping, which is easy, you have to tell the person face to face, you're falling short, you're messing up, and I'm mad. Like, this is normal, right? In these sessions.
I think as a leader, there's a time and place. I remember in practice when I would be challenging people, and if it was a new person, Chet would coach me in real time and say, look, if you have this veteran over here, okay, fine, challenge all you want. There's belief and there's trust. But when you have a brand new person, you may have to still be the same person and still call something out, but your delivery may be different. The shoot in your eye, you can't bomb somebody right from the step. You have to have some ability to feel, and the empathy of understanding, what it's like. And I think that curse of knowledge that we talk about at Built to Lead, and that you don't remember what it's like to be the new person. You don't remember what it's like to be the outsider coming in for the first time. And you just expect people to know and understand, and they don't. And I think that, you have to really it's full of contradictions, you want to tell people and you want to tell the truth, but I think there is a process that a leader will go through. And if you're a new employee, I'm first going to set my expectations. And then after I set my expectations, I'm then going to make sure I hold you accountable by inspecting what I expect, because I can't just call you out if I didn't done my part first. So I may have to go back and repair before I call you out, because it's my fault that I didn't set the clear expectations.
Wow. So I think today's entrepreneurs, let's just, you got sons who are young.
Yeah.
I have kids who are young, but growing. And the stereotypical entrepreneur that they get from Instagram, with the Lamborghinis and the film crew and this and that, give us the no filter version of being a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, that stuff's all crap. It's all crap. And like, I think, like I have a YouTube channel and I like posting and I like sharing all the experience and knowledge, but most of the stuff I see on there is garbage. And, there's one thing I know about, successful entrepreneurs. They're busy working. They're not telling other people how to make millions of dollars.
Interesting. So a lot of those people would be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, like when you're busy telling everyone else how much money you're making, like, you've got other issues that you need to deal with. I'm not saying that you're not successful, whatever you're doing. I don't know, but I would question it. And I think, YouTube serves a purpose, but I think a real entrepreneur is someone who is constantly evolving, especially with leadership and entrepreneurship. There's a lot of similarities that go hand in hand. And, I think someone who has a company, and as Dan Sullivan would say, you got to have someone writing the checks, because if you don't have a real company, then you're not an entrepreneur. If someone's not sending you money or giving you or paying for your service or your product, then you have an idea and you may have a hobby and it might be really cool, but you don't have a business.
Wow.
And I think, at the end of the day, when you have people writing the checks and you're growing and you're innovating, whether you step out and go start another company, whether you decide to stay and grow that company, there's lots of different types of entrepreneurs, some of enterprises and some of freelancers that are working solo entrepreneur. But I think there are those common denominators that entrepreneurs have, and they're not telling everyone else how much money they make and how much they can make if they do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, totally. All right. So back to this Built to Lead, 20 people showing up, but you gave the open invitation. Why did first of all, why did you not require it? Right. If you would have required it, would that have been negative? Give us some of those thoughts.
Yeah. So I went through a lot of iterations. I was talking about this with Chet the other day, is that, because we coach, he coaches some of his clients are the teams at Ohio State. And so he coaches the Ohio State wrestling team, the girls soccer team, the lacrosse team, and Built to Lead's the real deal. I mean, this is real stuff that makes people's lives transformational. Like, people literally transform their life, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I think in order to do that, it requires really, really hard work and a discipline to want it and then be willing to do it. And I think so there's a couple components, which is you may really want it and you want to get better and you have all these goals, but if you're not willing to do it, then nothing's going to change. And another thing is nobody can do it by themselves. So you always have to have others. And that's why we didn't need more than 20, because usually the best practices where the magic happened, the chemistry, the flow that we found over time was usually with less people. But I did go through my iterations. It was very frustrating for me to invest so much money and see that people didn't want it, especially because I was hiring people to try to really come into that, not really work at the collection agency. And
would you reward people if they came or not?
I didn't. They were rewarded by coming, and I went through my iterations of making it mandatory. I did an invite only. I did small leadership ones for just the execs. I did some for just all the new people. I played with all different versions of it, and what I found is that I wasted a lot of time. I think it's like, if you want to come for the right reasons, because when they're there, if someone's there for the right reasons or not. And people used to, call it out and think that they were just showing up to kind of kiss butt and everything. But you could see through it, because if there's one thing that Built to Lead does, it calls you out for whether or not you're being real, if you're believable. And so for me, that just became my way of being in the company. When I was hiring people, it was, do I believe what you're saying? I don't care about your college diploma. Do I believe in you? Do I believe you can do what you say you're going to do?
Yes.
And is it genuine? And I think all you have to do is ask some really cool, curious, we say insatiably curious questions, and you have to actually listen. And when you listen, you get a feel. You get a feel, and instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, you just kind of tap into what they're saying, what they're giving you, and either you believe them or you don't.
Yeah. And I think whether it's Chet or whoever, the audio has to match the video. There's times where in our company, people can say all they want. Yeah, man, I get it. I hear what you're saying. I'll make the improvement. But then you see it in the performance, and they're making it so clear.
Yeah, so I hired someone to come in and kind of run over the operations when I was starting another company. And we had a disagreement about hiring high-level salespeople, people who were making over $100,000. And my philosophy was always hire someone on fire who's eager to grow. And these individuals that came in demanding over six figures, because they had $100 million deals with the other company. Like that stuff didn't mean anything to me, and I didn't really care. And none of them ever came
Interesting. They came in entitled, thinking, I'm going to get all this because that's what I've done in the past.
And they couldn't. And so, like maybe it was because we were different. Maybe it was a different type of a sale. But, the one thing I know about high performers is if you're a real high performer, you can go to other systems and be a high performer.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So,
that's true in sports too. Like
absolutely.
You see the drama players that wherever they go, whatever team, drama follows them. And then you find other really good people.
Yeah, look, there's some people who have a gift of gab and they know how to get past the interviews, and maybe they're good at sales, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, your performance, it speaks for itself. Whether you're selfish or whether you're a leader who truly serves, will speak for itself. Like the truth comes out. That's why I think in an interview for entrepreneurs, identifying that realness, that are you believable? It's important, because the last thing you want as an entrepreneur is to try to build this team around this like big dream that you have. And then 3 months later go, who are you? Like, who are you? Like, I used to have this thing where I'd say to people in an interview, like, if you and I were having a beer on Saturday night, like, is this who I'd be talking to? And almost always they'd say no. And I'm like, can I talk to that person? Because like, that's who I'm going to be working with. And that's who my employees are going to be working with. And that's who I want to talk to.
Wow.
But I think people are on ChatGPT, Google, and they're finding out how to pass the interview, and they're trying to be someone they're not. And I think, at the end of the day, with our aim at Built to Lead, and now that I'm trying to coach other people and I'm taking on clients, that's the aim. The aim is to help people truly become themselves and what they're destined to do in life, and help them dig that out. You don't tell them what to do. You don't tell them what they should be doing. But when you empower people around you and they're able to ignite, right? I mean, and you know this better than anyone.
Ignite, yeah.
It is such an incredible thing to watch people's souls on fire, because you can't stop them.
Right.
You can't. If you give them
you don't have to wake them up, bribe them, keep them motivated.
You might. I've had to be woken up a few times.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get complacent. It's easy to get comfortable, especially if you're in a system that is in love with you, because you're a great teammate, leader, performer. And one thing Chet hit me with pretty much early on is that you want to cheat towards your high performers. Because if you're going to spend all your time getting drained trying to get the people at the bottom of the charts to lift, you're going to be drained. And really, it's those high performers that they're the igniters for other people. So when I made that shift and I started challenging hardcore the high performers, it raised the level of the entire company.
Wow.
When I was going after the low performers to try to help them because I cared, I would go home losing my mind because I wanted it more than they wanted it. And that's not a good recipe.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
The high performers too, if you invest all your time with the low performers, they're out. Don't you feel like they're going to be out?
They're it's like they deserve the most. It's like, again, here's the opposite world we live in, right? Most people do not focus because, hey, you're doing great, you're performing, you're exceeding your goals. I'm going to leave you to do your thing. And it's just the opposite. No, it's give that person an accelerator, make them double what they're doing. And you may think that's so unrealistic. And we did that. And if you think about what we were doing, we were collecting money, and we were collecting money from people who said they couldn't pay. And there was an average of about $10,000 to $20,000 that people would fall into every single month in commissions, which means they're collecting anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 just by being nice to people on the phones, by helping them. And when we did this shift, I had people hitting 40 to 50, doubling and tripling what they were doing. And it just raised the entire bar. And I remember I challenged the highest performer. I said, if you can hit your goal, and I gave him a really big, crazy goal. I said, you can have open schedules. You can come and go as you please, 40 hours a week. I don't care when you come in. And that was a really big deal in a call center. And she hit it. And she earned it for the entire company. And it completely changed everything, because like that freedom to give people in a call center environment, in an hourly plus commission environment where, typically you have slave drivers in a call center telling people what to do, get in your seat. Can I go to the bathroom? And people don't want that type of environment, especially today.
Yeah.
So it was incredible. And I think about that. That came from Built to Lead. That came from us targeting our high performers and lighting them up with, challenge instead of letting them just sit in their office, do their thing, because they're doing great.
Let's go back to that. I think this is really powerful. You said that when you weren't as clear, you got along with your partner, that first partner.
Yeah.
But when you got clear, you no longer.
So we got along. we got along, but we say in Built to Lead that, I always tell the story. I had a mission statement that I worked on for 6 months, and I poured myself into this mission statement, and I got it framed, and I put it up on the walls, and I was in a meeting with my company, and I told everyone, I asked them, what's the mission statement? And nobody knew it, and I was livid. I was so upset, and then I got called out. Someone said, you tell us what it is verbatim. And I remember I got stuck. I completely got flustered. And I used all the corporate words. I used all the mission-driven, innovation, all the stuff that you'd see in integrity, everything that you'd see in a mission statement. And that might have been one of the most embarrassing moments of my career.
Wow.
No joke. And I remember it was right around the time with Built to Lead. And I remember it was a real hard lesson in Opus. Opus allows a Built to Lead client to pursue a big dream for their life. And what you want to do is you want that to spread and have an impact. But this is my vision. And I'm not going to, we say my way is the highway, not my way or the highway. So we don't say jump on my vision or get out of here. We just say, here's my vision. Here's where we're going, because I know where I want to take this place. And I want you to come on board with me and figure out how you align with it. So we were challenging everyone after this happened to write their own vision. And when people were doing that, oh my gosh, it completely changed everything, because they weren't expected to drink the Kool-Aid and have my vision in their mind, which doesn't mean anything, by the way, because who cares? And it didn't mean anything to me. But when I got clear on my changing the perception of collections, it impacted every single decision, the way I did everything in the company. And then when I saw other people connecting to it and finding creative ways to connect to it, and some people didn't. Some people had a big dream and it was to leave. And I gave them a safe place to share that. And it just did something for us. I had some people that wanted to be with us forever. I had some people that knew they were leaving in 2 years, and we accepted it, and we figured it's going to happen anyway. So why hide it? And I think fear plays a big part in most entrepreneurial journeys, where they have this authority figure, they abuse it. And sometimes it's not even their fault. Like, they may not even try to do it, but they do it just because of their position and their role, and they don't work hard at doing things like practice and build trust and do the things that really a great leader will do with their team.
So let's take the last 5 minutes and let's go into where you are now.
Yeah.
Because you're somebody who's not golfing and chilling out. I couldn't do it either. You are innovating the next version of Chad. Your content's amazing. You see me commenting on YouTube. I'm like, dang, this is good. Your quality's amazing. Hats off to your team. But who is Chad now? Are you a thought leader? Are you content creator? Are you coaching with Built to Lead? What are you doing?
Here's the cool thing with Built to Lead is Built to Lead. We always say that leaders can't lead others any further than they've gone themselves, and it's true, right? So, I started my company over 25 years ago, and then I started another company that was part of my big magnum opus at Restart, which helped people get jobs. And I sold both companies in the last 2 years. And so one of the components in Built to Lead is the identity piece, and it is where we start trying to help people figure out who they are. And there's no doubt it's one of the hardest things in the world, is to be yourself and to know who you are and know, and feel comfortable with that, and be okay with the fact that you're distinctly different from other people. But again, our role is to try to be deeply connected to whoever we're trying to make an impact on or work with. And for me, I decided to join Built to Lead as a coach and build into other people and share all of my experience in learning and building. And as I continue to do that, and now rinse my opus and try to make a bigger impact on other people's lives, I'm not just going to be doing it with people who are like working under me and in my company. I think for me, I've kind of been there, done that. 25 years was enough. And that next expression for me is different, because I just don't want to go build a company anymore. I think, I did that, and it was a great experience. And
now you're building people
who are building companies, for sure.
Wow.
And people who just want to live a life worth living, because, I don't care what you're doing. If you're my client, I'm looking for the right type of client. So I'm being really picky. Thank God I'm blessed to not have to go get clients to feed my family. Right. So I'm going to really kind of look for that right fit client, which is,
you're the buyer. As Dan Sullivan says, you're the buyer. You're looking for the right client to invest
because I want that person, we do this together. And so it's together we transform. It's not just, I'm not going to fix people. And I think I'm happy that I have some credibility behind me, that I've done all this work and I have these companies that I've gone through. And I think that'll benefit people who work with me. but I'm going to be picky and probably only work with a few. And yeah, I'm excited. I got my first client. We started yesterday, and yeah, I'm just kind of starting that builder's journey. And really, the process started with me going back to day one and starting again with a builder and going back to the playbooks and working on myself and just now challenging other people to do the same.
I see you. Put it this way: you're gonna. This is my prophetic thought. I think you're gonna want it more than your clients. Like, I don't know, like the fact that you love your work so much and everything you do, I think you're gonna get clients, and you're just gonna like be so passionate. Like, any client who has the opportunity to work with you is gonna be so blessed and so lucky because you just have this endless supply of belief.
Yeah, I was talking to Chet yesterday, and he's going through an expression right now where he's being really picky with who he's working with. He's been doing it for over 20 years.
Yep.
And we talked about this, and I do believe though that a leader gets the team that he or she deserves.
Oh, that's good. That's deep right there.
Yeah, and like, over time, I got better people coming to my company as I got better. So the better I can get as a coach, the better clients I'll get, and I'll attract those types of individuals. So that's why I think it's so important to focus inward and not trying to fix other people, because you do attract those types of things into your life. And then, as an entrepreneur, there's no doubt that there's some law that we don't understand. Call it what you want, the secret, the law of attraction. I don't care what you say. There's something going on that, that happens in business and in life over time when you look back.
Wow.
And you can see it pretty clearly when you kind of just stop and pause. But as an entrepreneur and a visionary, and this, you have to stop and pause or else you're constantly going. And
yeah.
I think that's a dangerous place to be in.
This is awesome. I've never had a full exit, so I respect what you had to go through the last 2 years. I know it's been ups and downs, and we've chatted a few times, but I'm really proud of you. I think the world, I brought you to my conference over a year ago to speak, and I thought, we got 20 speakers and everyone needs to break into these small rooms. Man, your room was packed. And after you spoke, I'm like, dang, I wish we would have had a much bigger room, because the value, you can tell like when someone fakes it and reads it and when someone has actually lived it. And I feel like you've lived it, man.
That's fun. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
What's, maybe last 2 minutes here, what's some goals in front of you that you have?
Yeah. So, first and foremost is that it's lifelong learning. I think, the experience is great, and I have a lot of that behind me, but I have to keep learning and I have to keep getting better. And so for me, it's, when they say that you want to surround yourself with your top 5 people who you be. And for me, there's no doubt. And when I think about the people that I'm now connected to with Built to Lead, it's such a blessing, because I think that's one thing that entrepreneurs, if you have that, I always say you need a few, and you're blessed if you have it. And man, I'm so blessed to have more than a few. And I think that's a big reason why I'm able to do the things that I think I get to do, is because I have incredible people that I'm connected to that allow me and they empower me and they hold me accountable. They call me out. And so I think, find those right people to connect with, and, you don't need a huge network.
Yeah.
You just don't. So I think you have a few, and you're lucky and you're blessed, and hopefully they'll tell you the truth.
Lots of gold coming here. All right. Yeah. So where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I have a website, chetsilverstein.com. And then I have a community app that I built that you can learn more about Built to Lead. You can check that out from the website. And yeah, pretty easy to get in touch with. And
your YouTube channel is Chet Silverstein.
Chet Silverstein. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Folks, he's one of the few that I listen to. Whenever I get a text or phone call, I quickly pick it up and I'm like, hey, glad to hear from you. So really proud of you. And I think you've gone from, I would say, local impacts. You're huge in Columbus with your companies, to now I think the global impact's coming, Chad. So get ready, my friend.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate that, and thank you so much for inspiring me and our friendship and having me on the show. All right, folks. So I'm going to close by saying I think serial entrepreneurship is a blessing. It comes with challenges, but as long as you're getting built to lead, it's a blessing. That's right. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you. See ya. Bye-bye.